Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
Now, I want to show you something else, guys, because I wrote something today too, okay, that I believe is in line with this. And then there's a piece of Charlie Kirk that we're going to watch. So here was my little treatise on Charlie Kirk. And let me give you some background about why I wrote this. Because I have been entangling with people, Charlie Kirk fans, and anytime you say something negative about him or you point out his misogyny or his racism or his transphobia, they always say, you didn't really listen to Charlie Kirk. That's what they say. But then when you go and look at the things that they say things like this. Coincidence, the worst depression happened less than 10 years after women were allowed to vote? Right? You see what I'm saying? So the point is this guy told me I didn't really understand Charlie Kirk. I never really listened to him. The shit I was saying about him was untrue. But it took me all of 2 seconds to find this. And I was like, dude, you learned this from Charlie Kirk. Or you had this sort of negative misogynist opinion and you watched Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk made you feel like it was okay to have this opinion, that you were in fact right, that women should be subservient and that they're the ones that are causing all the problems. They got their voting rights and then they caused the depression even though they couldn't own any financial shit, right? But every single one of them has some nonsensical belief like this shit. All of them do. Dude, okay, so they'll show you a clip of Charlie Kirk saying something like sensible, and they'll say, look at him, look at what he did, okay? But here's my thought. So you can sift through Charlie Kirk's content and find things that might seem good along with all the other extreme stuff. But the danger of Charlie Kirk was the mission, okay? It was the mission, not what he said necessarily. It was the mission that was dangerous. Simply showing him saying something cool doesn't remove what his mission was. His specific mission was to groom young people, to make sense and be an affable guy that was slowly and surely moving them towards more extreme misogyny, racism, and transphobia. And he was paid millions to do this by wealthy evangelicals that were using him to amass political power and to exercise control over us, to force all of us to live under their biblical scripture. But again, he wasn't simply out there fostering debate. He was making very targeted content in order to win over the young people and to convince women to not go to school and be moms, convince them that transgender people were mentally ill, to convince them that a woman's place was taking care of her man, that she should be subservient, she's not in charge, to convince them that black people, if they got a good job, it's because they didn't deserve it, to convince them that the Civil Rights Act is racism against whites, etc., etc., etc. The mission, though, was not let's have a debate and then let's work with these leftists to make the world better. The mission was no, they want to get rid of Islam. They want to get rid of immigrants. They want to, like, biblical, woman in the home, straight cisgendered family, scripture, right? They had a mission, okay? And it was this. It was, right, to amass political power so they could exercise biblical control. Sure, he said some good things. All the extremists do. That's how they snare you. This is important, guys. This is important. Sure, he said some good things. All the extremist groomers do. That's how they snare you. You think, wow, that makes sense. Or, wow, I think this guy's really different, right? He's debating. And then the next thing you know, they're passing laws to kill trans people by denying them health care. and you're numb to it, by then you think trans people don't deserve health care, or you don't think they're worth fighting for. You think if they get their health care taken away, it's actually good for you and your kids. So you turn your back while it happens, okay? Because the guy said some good shit that you resonated with and thought, oh, this is a cool guy. He says some really sensible things. And then a year later, they're denying trans people health care, and you're like, okay with it. And then they come for immigrants and gays and women, etc. And still, you do nothing. You turn your back. And that's the problem, guys. That's the problem. Because in the end result, they had a goal. And that goal was they're going to take away some rights, or they're going to harm some people that they feel are undeserving or unimportant. And then you're supposed to turn your back and let them do it. Okay? And this is the problem with the Charlie Kirks. Okay? Is they say just enough to get your trust and to get your interest, and then they convince you that harming people is okay. Now, can I show you some examples of this in action? Check this out, guys. You ready? This is great. This is a memorial of Charlie Kirk's greatest hits, all right, that you're not going to see on TV necessarily, but we're going to watch them because, again, I think part of our mission now, guys, is to shine a light on this. Okay, we have to shine a light on the real Charlie Kirk, not the MAGA side that wants to turn him into some kind of a amazing deity because he got blown away, but what this guy really said when he was out there on these college things. You ready? Here we go.
Comparing abortion to the Holocaust.
Absolutely, I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse. Were these blacks trying to go rob her? Happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. Black crime is a major issue in our country. Why are you pushing criminal justice reform exactly? Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Now, the southern border is, of course, the great replacement. They're trying to replace us demographically. They're trying to make the country less white. It is an anti-white agenda. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Taylor Swift is now engaged to Travis Kelce. This is something that I hope will make Taylor Swift more conservative. Reject feminism. Submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge.
America was at its peak when we halted immigration for 40 years and we dropped our foreign-born percentage to its lowest level ever.
Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters. In Leviticus 18 is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Can we get that picture up, Ryan, of that Marvel's Avenger team? Now, I don't know who the person is on the left. Is the person on the left that came and did the interview with Joe? The TikTok? Your government is being run by freaks. It's like immediately like a flashback to a country where weren't able to do Bud Light commercials. What does being trans even mean? Is that even a real thing? It means you need therapy. We must ban trans-affirming care the entire country. I do think that there is a direct correlation between someone's testosterone and their politics. On young men, the lower their testosterone, the more likely they are to be Democratic.
So if you had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped, and she was going to give birth and she would, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live, would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
It's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered. When blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that?
So I'm sorry, are you trying to say that blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration.
Comparing abortion.
There you go. That was some Charlie Kirk. Now, you know, isn't that crazy So let's see what he said. First off, abortion is worse than the Holocaust. Jesus Christ, dude. That is brutal. Now, let me just tell you guys, the primary thing about abortion is that prior to abortion, any man could get a woman pregnant. He could go out with her once, have sex, get her drunk, have sex unprotected, even when her consent ability, she can't even say no because he's got her liquor up. He could get her pregnant, and then society told her she had to marry him. So not having an abortion meant she could potentially be enslaved for life to some guy that she went out on one date with. Okay, that's the importance of abortion, is it prevented women from being entrapped for life, being a manservant and fucking raising kids because she's been, forced by society to marry some fucking guy who got her pregnant. And believe me, that happened. Then he goes in and says that blacks go around prowling to kill whites. That's total bullshit. Then he goes off on some eugenics shit, saying that Joanne Reed, Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, that they are all don't have brain processing ability. That's eugenics. That is some slavery fucking shit that he's passing right there. Charlie, please, you fucking piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? All right, next up is people at the southern border are trying to replace us. We got a little bit of replacement theory for Charlie. Extreme. All right. Then his thing says if he sees a black pilot, automatically he assumes they're not qualified. If he sees a black anything at a high level, he just assumes they're not qualified. That's more of that eugenics shit and deep racism. Then this is great. Taylor Swift needs to submit to her husband. Dude, what the fuck is that? Women should not be submitting to their men. And if you're a woman and your man thinks you need to submit to him, you should bounce. Get out, okay? There is no submission required. Then he went on and said America was best when we didn't allow any immigration, when it was just all white people, okay? That's when he thought America was best. Now, he didn't bother to stop and think what America was like for all the people of color or the gay and trans people or the women. He just is thinking about him as a white guy in power. Everything was great when there was nobody to compete with the white guys in power, right? That's what he really means. Then he goes into the Miss Rachel, yes. And Charlie's like, oh, if you're going to pull a quote from the Bible, let's go look at God's perfect law that says if you're gay, you should be stoned to death, was his thing, right? And it's like, now what's interesting about that is he's saying that you should be stoned to death if you're gay, but he's not really saying it. He's couching it in a Bible verse, and he's kind of bringing it up as a means of like saying, well, if you're quoting the Bible, what about this other verse of the Bible, right? He's trying to use it against her, but he did say that it was God's perfect law, which means if he's a devout Christian, surely he believes in God's perfect law. So again, though, this is another aspect of Charlie Kirk where he says this toxic shit without actually saying it. So he's always gaslighting. He is. He's a gaslighting, plausible deniability fucking huckster. Okay? He is. Always. He was always gaslighting. Every time he opened his fucking mouth, he was presenting some gnarly shit to you, but he was doing it in a gaslighting way. What else did he go into? He went into this one where he used a slur for Dylan Mulvaney multiple times. Okay, and he basically discredited these people because they live outside the gender norms that he considers to be allowable. Okay, because at the end of the day, Charlie gets to decide what gender norms are acceptable. And because he believes in the Bible, he has that power. And then if you live outside that, you're a freak, you're a slur, you're incapable, right? And then he went on to say some shit about how, you know, everyone in the government are freaks and that, like, what is even trans? He won't acknowledge the existence of transgender people, and he's really angry that transgender people made some money from Bud Light or got elected to Congress or have gotten positions of power, okay? So he's really hateful and resentful of trans people, and since he doesn't understand them and won't take any time to get to know them, he just assumes that it's some type of deviancy and made up shit because, of course, the only shit that Charlie Kirk says is real and exists is allowable and real and exists, okay? Because he's just, you know, he's the king, right? He's the guy who is the final authority on everything, right? That's what he is. Charlie Kirk is the authority. Why? Because he reads the Bible. All right. Then the testosterone thing. This was a great one, which is he's saying that basically all the right-wingers are high testosterone men and all the guys with low testosterone are left-wingers, right? That's a fancy little way of saying everybody who's a leftist is not really a man, right? You're not a man. You don't have any testosterone. And we all know that that's not true. Dude, if you go and look who's popping Viagra and who's getting ED treatment, it's conservative guys, dude. They're always the fucking got pee-pee issues, bro. They do. They have serious pee-pee issues. They do. That's why they so overcompensate. Then this one, I want to talk about this one because there's two things about this that are problematic. Now, the first thing that was problematic about this is obviously him saying to this woman that if he had a 10-year-old daughter, he would force her to deliver a raped baby, okay? That's fucking outrageous, okay? Anybody who would force their 10-year-old daughter to deliver a raped baby is they're a sadist, okay? They are. You're sadistic and you don't care about your daughter or women in general, okay? That shit is fucking wild. Okay, now, you ready? There's one other thing about this that I want to show you that I found really bothersome. You ready? Watch. Because this was a habit of Charlie's. Watch this. Here we go.
So if you had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped and she was going to give birth and she would, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live. Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
It's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
Okay, right there. He said, that's awfully graphic, and then calm down is what he said. And I bring this up, guys, because on the surface, it looks like not an important thing. But every single time he debates a woman, he uses the calm down. It's a mechanism he used. Every time a woman is like kicking his ass, he throws in the calm down. Dude, he's disingenuous, right? Dude, he's disingenuous. I mean, he's not anymore because now he's dead. He's no longer with us. But he was so disingenuous. But every time he argued with a woman, there was something like that where he would say, calm down, or, oh, you need to look at your phone, or he would like try to belittle them with some sort of trope that was like, you're being too emotional, or if they get really emotional, he would get really calm and then start sort of like taking shots at them being emotional. And that's abuse. Those are abuser tactics. Okay. This guy was a first grade abuser. He was a first grade like woman abuser. And he believed it's okay, though, because the Bible tells him that being a woman abuser is okay. It's fine. They're fine with that. Dude, yeah, always gaslighting. Always gaslighting. And then this part here was crazy. Okay, what he said on this one, remember with that final black girl, where he actually said that black people were better during segregation. Okay, better. What does that even mean? Better. He actually said that when there was segregation and there was like the KKK running free, black people were better in his eyes. I mean, watch this shit, dude. This is nuts, bro.
When blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that?
When blacks didn't have the rights they had today, they were less murderous and there were less break-ins. Dude, what data does he have about that, dude? And he only says blacks, right?
You're trying to say that blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed.
Dude, they were better in the 1940s when Whitey was running around lynching them if they looked at them wrong. He said they were better. Like, dude, I mean, we are all this woman right here. Like, dude, and when I hear that shit, you know what I'm saying? When I hear this shit, like we watched the 3 minutes of this, and when I hear the things Charlie Kirk says, you know what it makes me do? It makes me like think about him getting shot, and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I listen to this shit, and I just am like, all right, live by, die by, right? I feel bad for his kids. I feel bad that his kids are growing up without a dad, and simultaneously, I think his kids may actually do better without him being in their life. You know, they actually might be better off without him being around. As tragic as it is, like not having your dad around can be very traumatic. But if he's got a daughter, I think she's actually better off. That's facts. She's probably, not going to have a man try to force her to deliver a racist baby when she's 11 or 10. Like, what the fuck, bro? Don't even tell me this guy is good. This guy was not good, okay? He was not good. He was a wolf. He was a wolf. An anti-Islamic, anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-woman, anti-non-white people, anti-anyone who's not a Christian. And he was a wolf that acted like a good old Bible boy who was just telling you these objective truths he had culled from the Bible. And he's going to sit there and, oh, shucks, I'm here to just have a hearty debate and exchange of ideas. But that motherfucker was a wolf. Yes, a rat, too. He was a wolf. He was a rat. He was a gaslighter. He was an abuser. He was a fucking piece of shit. A groomer of young men. And he fomented, to use Stephen, Miller's favorite word, he was a manipulator who fomented the very violent culture that ended his life. Right? I mean, dude, it's time to heal, baby. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.